Thank you all for coming to the first screening of Mother to Earth. My name is Christian Deitering. I am one of the producers of the film.
I am Joshua Bone Christian. I am director. This is Evan Butler. He's also a producer.
I'm a director. This is my movie. Our movie.
It's fine.
He goes through ups and downs, so I'm going to say we're lucky that this is an up.
And I'm Zephyr.
It's what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. I think April of 2016 is when we started with Kickstarter, so...
We put out to the internet that we had an idea, and when I say we, I'm talking about these two guys. They're the brainchilds of this thing, the Earthbound superfans. I'm the production guy who had a production company and makes films for fun and a living. And they hit me up and said, hey, we have this idea for a film. We want to tell the full story. And sorry, I'm going to get my little bit and you guys can chime in, because this is how it started for me. And they showed me an interview that Josh had done with Phil Sandhoff in like a Starbucks, and it was on his phone. And the quality wasn't great, but I was listening to what Phil was saying, and he was just dropping nuggets that like, I hadn't heard any of this stuff. I'm a Nintendo super fan, and so I don't even think I made it through the entire interview. And I hit you guys up and I was like, no, I think there's something here, let's do this.
And for you guys, the context is that Phil Sandhoff, he was a former Nintendo of America employee. And Josh, do you want to tell the story? There's so many stories.
I can't say how I found him or where he is, but I can say that I found him via the internet, because the internet's a wonderful place. Anyone can find you on the internet.
So it really is, it's just like, it's an incredible story how this all even started, but you're not here for that, you want to see a movie. But all of us here, we want to take a moment to say that thank you all for coming to this. This is something that we spend so much time, and we put so much of ourselves into this, and like you'll see us in it. So it's obvious that we're in there. But like it's to look out onto this room and see like more than my immediate friends or my immediate family, to see people like.
Also, thank you to all immediate friends and family.
Are you gonna cry?
I know.
This has been a long time coming for all of us, and it's really nice to be able to show the finished product finally. And we still have a long way to go, unfortunately, for all of our Kickstarter backers. We have finished the film, but now we have to make the DVD and Blu-ray. There were a lot of special features that you guys are going to love, and so that will be the next step of the process for us, is putting in all the delicious little tidbits that you guys are going to want to see after you watch the film, because there was just so much that we learned that we couldn't get it all in this movie.
So I think we should actually probably start with a little intro, because well, not everybody here even knows what Earthbound is.
Yeah. Well, that's what the movie's about. Are you ready to learn way too much about a video game?
We'll show the film and then we'll come back up for a Q&A afterwards, and you guys can pick our brain about everything.
But I'm so nervous.
Anyways, enjoy. Mother. Yeah, I mean, I guess we do have some time for some questions.
I personally would like to start by saying apologies for the few little flubs that are in it right now.
Yeah, we're gonna
full disclosure, we literally got the film back from the color grader this morning.
Yeah. And then
That's how tight it was. And most of what is going on in there is Resolve for some reason spitting out the wrong file.
Resolves the program.
Yeah, and I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, so that's why sometimes it's a little, like the sync drops a little bit, and there are also a few parts where when there's like a wall of text and it doesn't zoom in, it's like,
Or like,
So,
that, and I also...
slight apologies.
Yeah, that, and also, because I know people who are friends with some of the people from the campaign game clips. Sorry, I misspelled, the name's got misspelled, but that's okay. We'll fix that too. I've already got it. I'm gonna get on.
we'll fix it in post.
We're sorry.
Yeah, the post for our post. Unfortunately.
Trust us, we are the most critical of ourselves, and we are screaming right now.
But, I mean, we literally were working on this. I do want to say thank you to Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Yeah.
Because the deadline for us was very, very important. So everything that happened literally happened up into this past week, where we were just doing everything we could to get as much in there and give you guys as much as we could, you know, because you guys supported us, and so we wanted to do right by you. That was longer than I meant to, but this morning, we were downloading the copy from him, so the QC for it was, well, we're gonna play it, and fingers crossed.
Here we are.
Yeah.
We're professionals.
Yeah, anyways, past that, can we turn the lights up a little bit?
We're just talking to the void. Let's find out how many people left. I totally won't destroy my ego.
I can see the people out here that have legalized Mother 3 t-shirts because they are fluorescent.
I see 3.
There we go.
Oh, wow. Oh, crap, people watch that.
Let's open it up to questions. Do you guys have any questions for us? The gentleman over
Purple
there?
shirt.
Yeah, what made you guys decide on, instead of like talking to the camera, you're like, let's use puppets instead?
That's my fault.
Yeah, so I actually just during the process of this film, I graduated from Pacific Northwest College of Art, which is down in Pearl. It's like pretty close. And I had to do my thesis, and I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do my thesis about. And I was like, oh hey, I'm making a film, but I'm also in the animation department, so I have to have something that is like acceptable for an animation thesis. And then we liked it so much, we were just like, yeah, let's make puppets.
The bigger story behind that is that one section where we're screaming at the camera about Kenny Brooks. That's, and we're us and we're in the room. All the lines that were puppets, we actually did that in those chairs.
Yeah, we did talking heads.
And then we wrote down what we wrote. We wrote down everything we said, and then we recorded it with puppets because we wanted to do something special. Yeah, Kenny, we actually reserved a seat for Kenny Brooks.
We keep inviting him. We actually got his phone number, and we reached out to him. No.
Stop. We're not a guest of honor.
No, we're still trying to get a hold of him. We would love to talk to him. It's just, he will not respond. And we've gone on several websites. We know forums that he's on. We created accounts and then reached out to him on those forums, and he just is not responding to anything at all.
Yeah, and we're not like harassing. We're not like making these.
No.
We're sending like DMs and private messages on just like public places where he is.
It went up to, we would love, I'll come back to that in a second, sorry, I don't know why we're talking about Kenny Brooks, but we keep inviting him to be a part of it. It was, the premiere's coming up, but there's still time to do an interview if you want to be involved, and then it was, there's no time for that, but the premiere's happening, and we'd love to have you at the premiere, come on out, so we're going to keep trying. It would be nice to actually get to talk to him.
It'll be the, webisode at the end when it finally happens, one day.
Special feature.
No matter how many years it takes, we'll get it.
Alright, but I wanted to say, for the puppet theater thing, I am not a part of the Earthbound community. I'm a Nintendo guy. I love Nintendo. Like, all things Nintendo, that's me. But I wasn't in this game, in the series, like they are. So as an outsider, going to Camp Fangamer, and then just talking to them, the Earthbound community is very artsy. Like, I was okay with the puppet theater because everything I was seeing around the Earthbound community was very art related. Even Camp Fangamer, which in terms of conventions wasn't huge. I want to say it was like 500 people maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
But they had a short film contest. And they had like 15 entries, and they were really good. And I was just like, who am I hanging out with? Like, what is going on here? Like, there was the Chimera Lab where they had stuffed puppets that you were taking apart.
It's stuffed, so there were stuffed animals. They went up to the thrift store, bought a whole, like hundreds of stuffed animals, and it's like, here's a whole bunch of sewing, materials. Rip them apart and sew them together wrong to make chimeras.
Like my Mother 3, the Chimeras. And so just everything that I've seen from the Earthbound community has been very artistic. Like, let's go make something, we're gonna create something. And so when we saw the puppet video, it was like, I think this kind of makes complete sense. Like, this is y'all's community, this is what they are. And on top of that too, the whole theme of the game is being a kid. And so I also thought that it worked in that sense too, which is like, you can't get any more childlike than a puppet theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, there was a couple themes that I thought it really touched on. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I like animation too, so when we saw his first puppet theater, it was super cute. It was just like, this isn't what I expected, but I really like what's going on. And so again, him being a part of the team, like, this is their story. So like, yeah, let's do that too. To me, it just really incorporated a lot of things all at the same time. And I was like, let's do it. It'll be fun.
You, bearded guy.
Hi, Corey.
Hello. What do you want to see from people who are developing games now in terms of like archiving and keeping things for posterity?
Ooh,
Like,
yes.
what kind of thing do you want current devs to do?
Okay, so I'm gonna start really super simple here. And please keep your assets, please. I know a lot of projects that end up just like, the product's out and they're like, they have all these materials, whether it's concept art, whether it's, the high resolution versions of some of the images that are used in the game that don't ever make it to the final cut, or like documentation, different things that they, like, from a development perspective, that stuff is very often, edited and changed, it's updated. Usually there's a database where they're like, yeah, let's throw all this stuff, and like it cycles in and out all the time, but like being able to get some of that stuff, at least in, backed up somewhere is really nice, because like, there's stuff like the promotional, like the box art, right? Or the manual, or things like that, and we have no idea whether or not those are even still at Nintendo.
Yeah, so everything that was in the film was mock-ups that we made based on, what Phil was telling us. And then with the Spacebound, there's actually, they trademarked it, and I think there's an image out there.
There's like a little image that says Mother with a little UFO that's supposed to be their like trademark image for their dead trademark.
Yeah.
And like, that stuff, like I ended up using that UFO and that tail for the Spaceman box, because that was stuff where I was like, I'm seeing, literally grasping onto the only things I have to try and make this recreation.
Like the original idea for Earthbound on the NES was that Earthbound on the NES took place on Earth. Spacebound was going to be the sequel, and it was going to take place on the other planets of the solar system. That's kind of where Mr. Saturn's come from. Saturn. So it's like, it's interesting to see how that's changed, and like, I don't know, there's a lot, we covered this tiny itty bitty aspect of Earthbound and Mother, but like, you have the entire development of Mother 2, Earthbound, then you have the entire development and cancellation of, Mother 3. Like, this is a sliver, and through the interviews that we conducted, we learned so much more, and like, we have hours and hours and hours of like, interviews on things that aren't to just a super narrow, specific set of what our movie is on.
Yeah, I also think that like in terms of like, especially because you asked from a developer's perspective too. I think that like to a certain extent, I understand like, and this is my personal opinion on accessibility. This is not like reflected by even probably other people here, but like for me, Nintendo especially, but like certain like game companies can only keep a game on market so long, right? Like NES games, you have to buy them secondhand now. Super Nintendo, like even as far forward as like far back as the Wii now, you have to, unless it's Just Dance, you have to buy it, right? And like Nintendo's not getting that money, and like I'm having to spend like on Earthbound, which like for the cartridge for Super Nintendo is like $250, $300 now almost, and like. That sort of stuff, like, there's only so much that companies like that can do. They can do virtual console, they can have re-releases and remasters of libraries. from way back, but ultimately I think there's a certain point where leniency is also kind of a thing. Like, I can't control, you know, Nintendo or any other companies, like, legally binding things that they have to do to keep their intellectual property safe. Like, we talked to IP lawyers and stuff like that, and it's like, IP really is important to preserve for the sake of, you know, the people that made it being able to continue making that same work. But in regards to like emulation or piracy or things like that, like it kind of makes me sad when games aren't accessible to people and they have to go out of their way to do illegal things to be able to access it, especially from a games as art perspective. So like, that's sort of where I'm coming from. It's like being able to like either make a game available to people after it's already been out for a really long time, or maybe turning a little bit of a blind eye when somebody's like, you know, trying to get it booted up on their Vita, you know?
I just want to play Little Samson.
Exactly. Like, how much money you have to pay for
How much
Little Samson?
is Little Samson? Little Samson is an NES game, and it's like, I don't know, thousands of dollars.
I think the question was, what do we want from developers in terms of preservation? I'm a hoarder, man. I say keep everything.
Yeah.
Like, if you wrote down a note on a napkin, like, you don't know. I mean, and I'm just saying this because I think this is the crux of everything, and it boils down to nobody thought this stuff was going to be important. And that's what I'm saying. It might be a note on a napkin, but what if it was hey, I got an idea, Earthbound. Like, what if it was that piece, and then 30 years later, some kids show up and are like, we really want to talk to you about this thing you did 30 years ago. Do you have any notes? And a lot of those guys are saying no, because what do you mean notes? Like, we didn't keep any of that stuff. So like, we see the importance now. It's like, don't fall into that trap again. Like, because you're young and starting out, that could be your first game, you're thinking this might not be that important, but what if it turns into the cult classic, like, and you got rid of all that stuff? So I err on the side of caution, keep everything.
We are lucky that Phil Sandhop is still around, that he is still honestly around. This is, the long and the short of it is that this is an oral history report. This is spoken legend being passed down. And we all know it's kind of like, it's silly, it's video games, blah, 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 but like, we're here now, we care. All of us care. Think about your favorite game. I'm sure all of you have some question about some game that had an important impact on your life. There's something that you want to know about it. Yeah. There's a stark sadness that, this oral history will fall silent. And we're lucky and happy, and we captured a tiny, tiny piece of it. That's why this is important, because it affected all of us.
Yeah, because there's some people that are gone. We already lost some stories, so let's try to get everything that we can while we can.
So on that note, and what Evan was saying about all those extra story tidbits that you have and that you collected with those interviews, do you think there's a possibility for you guys creating another project about Earthbound, maybe about Mother 2 and Mother 3 or
Mother 2 Earth?
The letter with the number 2.
I made that joke like later that day when we first came up with the idea for this. Then Mother 3 Earth. Mother 3 canceled.
I couldn't find the clip, but I do remember somebody pitching the idea for Mother 3 to be called Earthbound Endings. And I need to find that and put that back in, because I actually thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I know that I have interest in a project, which is through doing this, I personally am interested in talking to more gameplay counselors. That's something that I hadn't pitched yet. I wanted to wait until we were done with this. I didn't want to even think about doing another project until we finished this one. Just out of respect for you guys in the project. So now that it's getting towards the end, that might be something that I would start floating. Because, again, those guys are, no offense because I know some of you guys are out there, you're not old, but you're getting older. And, now's the time to get those stories. During the screening just now, I had a gameplay counselor who had to leave early to catch a flight, but he grabbed me in the back and was telling me that Dr. Mario used to be called something else, that he has the prototype with the other name. And I was just like, that just happened. And he was like, is that something you would like to talk about? And it was like, you have no idea. Like, this is totally what I've kind of been thinking about pursuing.
Yeah,
and it's like that just reinforces that I think it's a good idea.
We had our little booth, and we had Howard Lincoln, former president of Nintendo, come by and talk to us. Then we had Marcus Lindblom, the localizer for Mother 2, come by.
Randomly today,
like, turns out,
came up. It was crazy.
I know what Dr. Mario used to be called. Can I tell them?
Oh, he said. I didn't know that.
Oh, used to be called Virus.
Just virus.
Yep, that's what Dr. Mario used to be. Terrifying name. But like, you know,
and that makes me wonder, is the prototype that he was talking about, I wonder if the title screen, if that's what it says.
Yeah,
And that's the sort of stuff we need to find out.
Yeah, it is like, so now like, I'm
Jurassic movie.
jazz,
there's no way that's fact.
It's just
So
more
I-
information.
So I think the short answer is very yes.
Concrete plans? No. I know. I'm tired. Can't you tell?
It's so hard to make concrete plans when we're like literally halfway through the movie and then like 3 people are just like, hey, I have an Earthbound proto. It's like,
Dude, so many
where
people.
were you?
Tell them the story. Okay, so in the middle of making this movie, sorry. So in the middle of making this movie, Christian's favorite game is SimCity for the Super Nintendo. Good, you know, everyone knows SimCity, blah, blah. If you don't, good, internet, phone, now. But Christian loves SimCity, too, a lot. So, and we were talking to these gameplay counselors, and there is a rumor, there's some like leaked images, some stuff online that maybe at one point SimCity was actually on the NES, not the Super Nintendo. And so he would ask every single person we talked to about this SimCity on the NES.
I mean, like, it's common knowledge now, but 3 years ago, when I finally have a chance to talk to actual people that worked during that time, that when every interview was over, it was like, hey, I got another question for you guys. Let's talk
Under
about
my eyes
SimCity.
rolled to the back of my head.
Yeah, and they would tune out, and it was like, look, I just listened to Phil talk about Earthbound for 5 hours. Like, you can give me, you know, a couple minutes to talk about SimCity. And, I mean, yeah, we kept plugging on about that, and then a year and a half into the filming, the SimCity prototype showed up finally.
Yeah, and it's like
been gone for 25 years, just like this thing, and it finally surfaced. And people didn't think it existed anymore, and there it was.
Yeah, and it's like this tiny, like, we're making this movie, and this like itty bitty, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm talking fast. And then just like, I don't know where this other unreleased game just comes out of the woodwork, and there's like 2 copies, and like Christian has to come out here, and then Josh is here, and everybody's here, and there's this other entire separate deal with Frank Cifaldi. It's going to be like a spin-off movie, series on
I think that there's probably going to be a special features because I actually ended up buying the SimCity prototype.
Yeah. Like intense and extensive.
And like, no, in the SimCity prototype, it's like, there's so much crazy information out there, and I need you to understand.
Yeah, and so, yeah, then going into the interview with Jacob Christopher, and he's like, pulls it out of his bag a little bit. I'm like, what do you have?
We should do another question.
Yeah, so.
You, with this shirt.
There's a lot of people with shirts.
Yeah, you, Mr. Shirt. You got 2 hands. I see you.
How is this going to get released?
Again?
How is this going to get released?
So this was, I mean, like I said, we got it back from the color grader this morning, and you know, there's a couple of things that we need to go back and fix because of the export. But we just finished that, and so now we have to author the DVD and the Blu-ray and create the special features. So the plan is to start sending this out to film festivals, and while it's traveling around and hopefully gathering a little bit of buzz, we will be finishing authoring the DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And then the film festival circuit is key for us because we'd like to get it on a streaming service so that people could check it out.
Yeah.
And that's how that'll happen, is by getting it in the eyes of people that do that kind of stuff. And they're at festivals and looking for things to program. And it's like, hey, here's this cute little movie that's about a Nintendo game. It would be perfect.
So hopefully,
Also,
I was going to say, like, hopefully you can buy it in probably 6 months. No promises.
Well, Actually, also we, for the sake of Kickstarter and the backers and stuff like that, we also have digital copies, which will be available on, I think it's Vimeo on demand.
Yeah, we'll send it out.
And they're on pre-order on our website at motherterrace.com. That's not a plug. That's not a plug.
And you can follow us on Twitter at MotherToEarthMV.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're still working is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
But yeah, within the next 6 months to a year, we should have everything finished and then start sending out all the backer rewards. And it'll, like we did a screening for the backers last Sunday. It was an incomplete version, but we wanted them to see it first. And so probably with the backer items too, we'll probably send everything out to the backers first and then make it available for everybody else.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
they supported us, and so we want them to have, first crack at all that stuff.
But at the same time, we're also making a movie about a game that wasn't accessible to the public, so people pirated it. So I would rather have my game, or the film, accessible.
Yeah.
It's a double standard. I can't stand for it.
We're gonna upload a whole bunch of joke torrents. Good luck.
All right.
Another question?
Another question?
You in the back of the stripes?
Alright. So, this is a two-parter.
Okay.
What's your favorite mother game, and then what's your favorite part about the game?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I personally am biased a little bit, as you can tell. Earthbound Beginnings is actually really fun for me, and I know a lot of people tussle around Mother 1+2's Tomato did a translation of it, and I know that a lot of people go back and forth on that. I actually really like the official translation, mostly just because I geek out about it a lot, and I find the grinding to be really therapeutic. It's actually like, it's good to be able to kind of turn my brain off, but I especially love the narrative, like Act 3, like the last section of Earthbound Beginnings is probably my favorite part of any game in the series, just because it like really sets that kind of almost Spielberg-esque tone to it, and it's so good. So,
What's your favorite game ever?
Can I say Undertale? I can't say Undertale. It's Mother 3. I like Mother 3. I don't know. It made me cry. I feel sometimes.
I haven't actually finished all 3 of them yet. I played the first 2. I need to play the 3rd one to round it out. But for me, the first one, I don't know why. It was really weird. It didn't hit me until I got to the very end. I was kind of like, man, I'm just playing it because I need to know what's going on. I need to capture the game footage for the movie. And then I got to the end, and then for some reason it really hit me at the end. And it was like interesting because I didn't really believe you guys like being all attached to this.
Well,
like,
yeah,
I don't understand like what's going on. I don't get with these people and their connection to it. And then it hit the ending where you find out, it's your grandma and she's stuck there and you're releasing her, and then she like goes away. And it was just like, I don't know, maybe it was the fact that he finds out, and then right after he finds out, she's gone. Like, he didn't even really get a chance to talk to her. I don't know. For some reason, that part at the very end really hit me, and I didn't expect it to. Like, I thought I was just going to blow through it and be like, oh, I'm going to kind of sit in the corner and watch you guys who are Earthbound fans, and then at some point, I think that it slowly started to tip. And I think it had to do with that ending, and I don't know why. That's what they said. Like, it grabbed me, and I didn't think it would do it to me. I was like, I'm too cool for this. And then it got me. It was
I'm
like,
from Texas.
I get it now. Like, yeah.
I love you.
yeah. All right.
Keenan had a question.
Another question.
I know Keenan.
That tall man.
Stand up, Keenan. Show everybody how tall you are. Oh, everybody clap.
Whoa.
The power of a microphone.
Sorry. Did you contact any current Nintendo of America employees for interview during the course of making this documentary?
So I will admit, while I know people who work at Nintendo knew that we were making this movie, I also didn't really want to ask, mostly because Nintendo has a very strong history, if you might know, about people asking about things, and then they tell them no. It's actually, they publish it on their website too. They're like, if you're like trying to go for partnership with like licensing for music or You want to like partner for some sort of promotional event or whatever. Like if you're not already in contact with them and affiliated with them in some way, shape, or form, they just kind of look over it and they blanket no because they have too many submissions, right?
It's a historical, this is history, we're looking at the past.
I was under the impression that if you are still a current employee, that you aren't really supposed to give interviews and talk about stuff. And so,
NDA.
Going from that, yeah, we kind of held off a little bit too. And it was more like wasn't there like somebody tried to do something and they straight up told them like don't, and so they didn't. I think an employee was trying to write a book about Earthbound or something.
Yeah, well, that was Marcus, and he wasn't.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw him out there. My bad.
Oh, yeah.
I just kind of heard about this, and so knowing that there was like somebody who wanted to do something and that they stopped it beforehand, it was like, well, maybe we should just take the documentarian view of this and just treat it as such. Like, we don't necessarily need to reach out to them because we can tell the story. And so it was tough, man. Like, there was the possibility that just us reaching out to them, like, what if they came after us because of it? So it was like, no, let's take the aspect of we're going to tell the story and we're going to, do it in the best way that we can, and we're going to try and not break any laws. And so, we had the lawyer looking over everything, and he says, yeah, you should be okay.
I mean, once the film has been out for a while and has gotten around, I would like to try and ask around.
Once it's been spread out and impossible to remember.
Like box art, that stuff I would love to see if it's there. There's that infinitesimally small chance that the door could just open wide and suddenly we know everything.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I mean, that would be really cool, but at the same time, it's it's.
And then they'd just be like, oh, what did you ask? And we'd be like, ah.
So, Keenan, the answer to your question is no.
No.
It's weird because this thing that we love so much is a little terrifying.
Booth neighbor.
Hi, Booth neighbor. It's good to see you.
Well, I know that I've made some, I've gone out and filmed stuff if I've thought that stuff was not recently because I've been so busy, but if the door opens for something like that and I don't know how to fit it into something, then I can. Then I definitely consider at least making the interview accessible, right? Being able to put it out there, even if it's not for a movie, even if it's not for
just the whole interviews, which would be cool. But that
we need to wrap up, but we did meet Marcus, the gentleman who localized Earthbound for the Super Nintendo, and while the film's already done and stuff, I told him I'd love to interview him, and so we might try and see if we can arrange one interview with him, and then that would be something we would put in special features. And I think those things would be what we would put on YouTube. Yeah. Whereas it's not in the film, but I mean, we can talk. I'm going to talk about it now, real quick. We found out the story of Justin Bailey, for Metroid. Phil Sandhawk told us that a kid called in one day on the game counselor line and said, my name's Justin Bailey, and I put my name into the password code, and it gave me all of this.
And now I'm a girl.
And so, that's the kind of stuff that, we also have that wasn't a part of this, but needs to also get out there because people need to hear it. And so I think maybe stories like that would be what we would put on our YouTube channel just to kind of keep it going.
Yeah, for sure.
It
needs to be out there too.
The long and the short of it is, we're doing this, we have no idea what's coming next. But we love everything and everyone. We also need to go.
Yeah.
But we'll be outside if you want to ask us questions.
So thanks everybody for coming to the first series.
We love you. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Portland Metro Gaming Expo, Chuck, Rick, Jake. You guys are all awesome. We appreciate the opportunity.